A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 134th edition of the Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. A long few months ago, back in April 2020, when the pandemic had just started, online education was rapidly coming to the fore, and we at Notebook felt that it was our responsibility to put together a forum where educators could connect, discuss common problems, and arrive at common solutions. Little did we know that more than a year and a half later, I would be welcoming all of you to the 134th episode. For this wonderful journey we have had, it is your love and appreciation that has kept us going. And for that, I thank each and every one of you. Over these months, we've discussed a wide range of topics. We've discussed extremely curricular topics, NEP, lesson planning, and others. We've discussed extracurriculars, be it school activities, the house system, or school captains. Today, we look at a rather modern topic, gamification in the classroom. Games, as we know, are something that every child today plays. Why every child? Even adults, given a PlayStation, would turn into a child at the drop of a hat. However, when we talk of gamification, it covers a wider gamut of activities. Gamification is a process by which a lesson or an activity is made more fun through systems like leaderboarding, levels, upgradations, etc. Today, we will take a look at how gamification affects our lesson planning and our activities in the classroom. To speak about this, our first speaker today is Mr. Philip Burrett. Mr. Burrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Burrett served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Student Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Burrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist, and we at Notebook are privileged to have him as our senior advisor. Sir, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Abayu, for that introduction. A very good evening to Achin, you, and everyone there in the Notebook office. A very good evening to our panelists, especially Mr. Mohla, who I haven't met for so many years, and of course the other panelists and the guests who have tuned in. I must admit that when I was given this topic, I was a bit blown away. And so what I did was I called a friend who teaches computers in a school, and he took me through Minecraft education, Scratch, MIT App Inventor, hours of codes, and something called Thunkable, apart from, of course, interactive quizzes. Yes, I could make sense of interactive quizzes, but for the rest, there's a whole world of games to be used in education. And many a times we teachers seem to be afraid of getting into something that the children know more about than we do. I think that keeps us away. But my suggestion is that we should hold their hands and let them lead the way. Something like what happens in a toy shop. Let them lead where they want to go. We need to follow sometimes. I know when digital watches came into our lives in the 90s, my father struggled, to handle those four knobs. And so he stuck the analog watch. I too struggled with four watches, and I couldn't move between the modes and changing of time. But children today are so adept in picking up these skills. They were born with digital watches. They were born with video games. I can't play games I can't play video games, but I'm amazed at how fast their fingers and thumbs move, hitting those buttons on the iPhone to write, messages in short form. I can't get my head around making figures duck and punch and move. Even the FIFA 2000 was beyond me, and I lost every game I tried to play with my children. Then those strange boxes made their appearance with joysticks, like things like Nintendo and other gizmos, which they found so easy to handle. And yet I shut my mind off it. But as Vayu said, there's so much to learn. There's so much new things that we need to keep growing into. Why even trying to get my head around using a drone to take photographs would take time. Yet children fly these drones around and take some amazing photographs. It's all to do with your open mind and readiness to learn from new devices. It's also gratifying to see parents getting involved, playing with these, playing with their children with the video games and using the joysticks. I think connecting with them, laughing with them, and becoming children once again in the classroom or at home is very important. Now, I think learners learn best when they're having fun. And gamification aims at making learning more engaging and appealing to audiences, much more than the old boring ways of learning that continue to happen, by the way. And gamification in education means using game-based elements such as point scoring, Shubhayo mentioned, peer competition, teamwork, score tables, to drive engagement and to help assimilate new information. The new world of tomorrow is all about gaming. It's about coding. It's about making apps. It's about artificial intelligence. Now, one of the larger issues that educators face is how to best motivate their students. Once a student discovers how enjoyable it can be to learn maths or reading or science, teachers can often help them develop a lifelong love for something that they loathed a little earlier. But until that point, getting students interested in a new topic can be quite tough. Early age develops, and every age develops and thrives on what is called a field of knowledge or a knowledge-based skill. So the Greeks and Macedonians ruled because of their superior military training, gymnastics and athletics. And then Britannia ruled the waves because of its superior naval force. Later, the Dutch map making and projections helped them, charter the seas. Then the oil age came, of course, and that too will vanish. Just as the Bronze and Iron Age. And now we are in the IT age. This is the age of our children. This is the age of technology, robotics, and coding, as I mentioned. And we can't keep them back anymore. It is a hot button topic in the education field. Plenty of advocates, yet critics. And what is gamification itself, and why has it become so popular? Well, it traces its origins to education psychology and what motivates people to learn. Sometimes finding the resolve and perseverance to complete a difficult task can be tough. Gamification motivates people by making the process more enjoyable. As a person engages more with the course or project, their positive feeling towards the experience increases, and they're more likely to continue learning on their own. Gamification as a practice has seen significant growth over the past decade in areas like health, care, and the workplace, and has an increased acceptance of technology in class. Gamification learning has also become a popular teaching strategy. When it comes to education, a key to gaining knowledge and skills and retaining them is the desire to learn. However, typical classrooms, as I mentioned, thwarts this desire often. And if learning and teaching is old-fashioned, it's not meaningful. Now, in the past, most of our knowledge was based on teachers and textbooks. Now it is the internet, web courses, and of course, global peer groups. But the standardization of education content continues here too. What we need are innovative approaches to learning, such as gamification. Now, students are pushing us to change our ways of teaching because they have new ways of learning. They are battling the old rules and want cell phones and devices for the new world that they are creating. And often we are getting in the way. You look at their movies. It's so computer generated with bizarre special effects and Game of Thrones and Avengers, futuristic, fantastic. We cannot stop them dreaming, and we cannot come in the way of their creativity. This is their world and they are creating their future. It's like, it's like a teacher in 14th century Portugal telling a young Magellan or Vasco da Gama not to go near the water because these boys wanted to, see what lay beyond the horizon. It's the same thing. Now the pandemic has affected us all, but mainly these children who've been prevented from going to school, but their learning has continued and in some ways has been catapulted 5 years into the future. And now even, geographical trips are available, in their classes through virtual reality. History is taught by treasure hunts and war games. Science by involving yourself in do-it-yourself experiments, virtual lab experiments. And of course, there are the downsides of gamification, which I will, I'll leave to the panel to take us through. Now, playing video games involves many skills. Facts and infos are used to solve problems in context, and they improve and learn from feedback received. Then once a child has succeeded, the game moves to the next level. And there's obviously a built-in reward system and a well-graded skill development. New skills are learned and new information absorbed, and they help their friends develop their skills. Failure is a source of feedback, and learning and collaboration is needed. Training and assessment are all tightly integrated. Gamification is about transforming the classroom environment and regular activities into a game, which requires, of course, creativity, collaboration, and play. There are numerous ways to bring games and game playing into the classroom and to promote learning, to deepen student understanding on subject matter. Whether teachers are looking to bring aspects of gaming into their class or use a game platform across the curriculum, they can use gamification elements to enhance learning and student engagement. I took some lines from an article from the Hindu paper, which said, gamification learning involves applying the mechanics and dynamics of games to enhance learning outcomes. The idea of gamification is to replace grades with scores awarded at each step of the learning. By achieving a new score or a new level of mastery, when they complete a topic, assignment, or test, students are motivated to learn and make progress. Games are designed to be interactive and responsive. Players get to see the real-world applications and importance of the subject matter. Unlike traditional classrooms, in a gamified classroom, players are presented with immediate consequences of their actions, immediate feedback. They can identify their mistakes, explore and discover new pieces of information and strategies to progress towards their goals. Students are not only encouraged to learn by applying their knowledge in the real-time, interactive setup, they're also able to retain it better. Also, as I said, gamification involves teamwork, encourages teamwork, where students are divided into groups, they compete against each other. They're encouraged to learn from each other. Now, games can be localized by language, geography, age groups, giving everyone equal opportunity to learn a topic. Moreover, with personalized competency-based learning powered by EdTech, students can learn and acquire new skills based on demonstration of learning outcomes. Gamification allows a flexible, more effective structure where each student can advance at his own pace or her own pace. Finally, gamification increases engagement and interest in the subject. It becomes easier for educators to do their jobs. Moreover, with multiple learning paths within a course, they're empowered with multiple ways to evaluate learning outcomes instead of just one exam. They're able to better understand the learning needs of each student and help them progress in the course. Now, advantages, I just go through it very fast. It's got a built-in reward system. It leads to a greater love of learning, much more interest. One of the best advantages is that it increases a child's attention span. It applies to some people who are not good with traditional learning. Gives them a chance to learn. They can retain knowledge. Now, research suggests that gamification can also make assignments less intimidating for students prone to stress. If you use activities to teach a subject, students learn to associate learning with curiosity and joy instead of fear. Without added stress, these students are better prepared to participate and succeed in school. Of course, the common pitfalls are that students can become motivated by rewards and disinterested in the learning process. Exactly the opposite of what we want them to do. Now, to avoid this, it's important to differentiate between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation happens when students enjoy learning for their own rewards, like the excitement of understanding a new concept or discovering a new skill. Whereas extrinsic motivation, on the other hand, occurs when students are motivated by rewards and punishment. And I want to end now by saying, as long as we know how to use it, as long as teachers are trained in how to use it, select the right game for the subject, gamification can be a game changer in today's classroom. When they promote intrinsic motivation, game-based activities can increase the students' engagement, create more active learners, and prevent stress. And with that, Sabayo, I'm going to hand this over to the esteemed panel, and I hope I have laid some foundation for the rest to follow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction to this topic. I doubt if anybody else could have done better. Although initially you started by saying that you did not know a lot about this topic, I think this sets the ball rolling in the most perfect way possible. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker on this topic is Achin Bhattacharyya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is a fellow of the ICAI and a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. He is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce, and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shiva, am I audible?
Yeah, Achin, loud and clear.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session on a very interesting and contemporary topic. Having fun is the best way to learn. This was said by none other than Albert Einstein. If we could hop into a time machine and roll the date back to 700 BC, we would almost certainly find ancient Greek athletes rising up league tables and philosophers scoring points against each other. But what if we could roll the dice on the time machine forward? The future of our topic for the day, gamification, is of course exciting. It's packed full of wonderful ideas. While some of it might seem distant, the reality is that actually these predictions may be all closer than we could possibly imagine. There are three questions: what, how, and why bother in the first place? While exploring both the potential benefits and pitfalls of gamification. Gamification projects offer the opportunity to experiment with rules, emotions, and social roles. Reading an optional library book on the topic being taught in class and a student receiving reading points, get perfect attendance and complete all homework, any assignments given for a month, and a student that earns an on-target badge, getting assigned as a lead detective role in a science class, and working hard to answer the best questions. When playing by these rules, students develop new frameworks for understanding their school-based activities. This can motivate students to participate more deeply and even to change their concept as learners. Undoubtedly, as Burrett sir rightly mentioned, it can motivate students to engage in the classroom. And of course, give educators as well better tools to guide and reward students. And get students to bring their full focus into the pursuit of learning. The fact that education can be a joyful experience The fact that boundaries between formal and informal learning can be blurred. Students can be inspired immensely. All these things can very well be achieved by gamification. The challenges, however, are also significant and need to be considered. It might absorb teacher resources or teach students that they should learn only when provided with external rewards. And whenever we discuss about the word playfulness, I think the other thing that instantly comes to our mind is freedom. The freedom to experiment, and more importantly, the freedom to fail, to explore multiple identities, to control one's own investment and experience. By making play mandatory, gamification might create rule-based experiences that feel just like school. So naturally, some gamification projects will succeed and others won't. And if we try to improve the odds of gamification, providing value to our education and school ecosystem, we must carefully design gamification projects that address the real challenges that students face, schools face, educators face, that focus on areas where gamification can provide the maximum value, grounded in existing research, and address the potential dangers of gamification. In tandem with the creation of gamification projects, we must develop meaningful assessments of whether they're achieving their aims. I think that is equally important. This continuous, constant dipstick survey as gamification spreads throughout the real world. So then, honestly speaking, there's very little question whether it will impact us or not. Of course, the answer is very clear. By leading with research-based, theory-driven gamification projects, we can work to ensure that the impact of gamification is a positive one. The fact that it's a part of students' life for years to come. If we can harness the energy, motivation, and sheer potential of their gameplay and direct it towards learning, that objectivity, that maturity is something that only esteemed educators can bring in. And we can ultimately give students the tool to be really winners in real life. It's not only a matter of scoring, that's only one part, but I think that whole concept of intrinsic immersive learning, joyful learning, learning for life. I was going through some very interesting literature with regard to gamification strategies being followed by educators around the world. Few instances like instead of class worksheets, assigning students quests to learn about a new subject or complete a project, using team building games like Jeopardy to study as a class before a test. Instead of treats, class parties, etc., have students earn point towards a class field trip by behaving and doing the assessment. Pairing, pair subject that a student struggles with or dislikes with with fun books or activities to encourage motivation. If an educator is having a hard time getting the class invested in learning, talking with them together or individually about what motivates them as students and incorporating it into engagement strategies. The other wonderful thing is the application of this concept in other activities as well. For instance, in music education, where any activity where students need to repeatedly practice a drill or a skill. For instance, music learning. Students who are at the beginning stages of music learning must repeatedly practice note identification, which can at times become very, very tedious. Apps that gamify this repeated practice of learning notes can make it fun and engaging. So an example is an app like Note Rush app, which allows users to select the notes they want to work on and then assesses the student's ability to identify each note by using artificial intelligence to match the pitch of the instrument to the note displayed. The app uses the game dynamic of time pressure to engage students and use rewards like stars to motivate them. So we all know that the gamification theory that we are discussing today in education is that learners learn best when they're also having fun. Using game-based elements such as point scoring, peer competition, teamwork, score table to drive engagement and helping students assimilate new information and test their knowledge. But I think today we have a very fantastic panel, and I'm sure they will deliberate on various aspects with regard to practical application of gamification in their classroom. I would like to deliberate a little bit on the evolution of this concept. How did this entire concept of gamification evolve? I found this very exciting, very interesting. When was the word first used? How did this entire thing come into existence? It's a very long history. Over the period of time, a lot of activities, a lot of people contributing bit by bit. Since gamification has been recognized as a powerful engagement tool, it has almost become a standard feature of software designs as well. Before 2003, nobody had even uttered or much less heard the word gamification. But the concept, maybe the word didn't exist, but the concept had been in existence for a very long period of time. In 1908, the Boy Scout movement was founded. And Boy Scouts were awarded with badges to recognize their achievements. That they could earn those badges for becoming proficient in any activity, acting according to the principles of organization, for special events that they attended. In 1973, the power of games to engage employees was recognized for the first time. Released in 1973, the Game of Work was written by Charles Conrad to address the issue of flagging productivity in the US. Productivity was falling. It was really, industries were failing on various fronts. Sales of recreation and sports equipment, on the other hand, was rising. So the author suggested that fun and games might be the answer to the thorny problem of employee engagement. In 1978, the birth of social video games. For the first time, Roy and Richard developed MUD1, the first multi-user dungeon game. And 1981, gamification for the first time, takes to the skies with A Advantage, the world's first frequent flyer program, which is released by American Airlines. The initiative sought to encourage customer loyalty by offering rewards to frequent patronage, something very, very common, a model we still see today, even in high street coffee shops. But all these concepts are related, one step after the other. 1982, academics recognized the potential of gaming for the first time, with computer games demonstrating inherent abilities to engage users. Articles started to appear, exploring possible uses. In fact, a year earlier, in 1981, Thomas Maloney released two wonderful articles. First, towards the theory of intrinsically motivating instruction. Now, these articles outline what could be learned from computer games and applied to other areas. And then that concept started evolving. 1999, fun was taken seriously for the first time. More and more people started to recognize this. And Stephen Draper released a research paper suggesting that user enjoyment should be a major requirement of all software design. And during the later part of 20th century, people were beginning to consider games as a way to increase productivity in the workplace. With the concept of frequent flyer rewards that we discussed, power of game mechanics to engage customers was also realized. Now, we had our successes, we had an inking of a truly effective model for engagement. The only thing we were missing was a name. And in 2002, the term gamification was heard for the first time. It was born. While designing a game user interface for commercial electronic devices like ATMs, vending machine, mobile phones, Nick Pelling coins the deliberately ugly word, that's how he described it at that point of time, gamification, with a name. And the history truly begins. 2005, first modern gamification platform, Bunchball, founded by Rajat Pahadia, a platform which designed to boost engagement on websites by adding a layer of game mechanics, was born. And also same year, Microsoft's 360 game scorer system was introduced. And the whole journey gathered momentum. So much so that in 2008, Sony began offering trophies for PlayStation 3. And gamification was all over the place. 2009, we saw the launch of Foursquare, an app allowing users to search for and discover new places. So by and large, the momentum had really caught up. 2010, a groundbreaking TED Talk on gamification, how gaming can make a better world. And this was delivered by Jen. And this TED Talk was really groundbreaking, much ahead of its time. I remember two lines that she said, which are very, very relevant. When I look forward to the next decade, I know two things for sure. That we can make any future we can imagine, and we can play any games we want. So I say, let the world-changing games begin. And that really goes on to show the importance that gamification got. Much ahead of its time. And 2011, inaugural G Summit was hosted. And so if we see a lot of other activities as well. For instance, 2012, we see Amazon releasing Game Circle service. Mozilla Open Batches launched to create an online standard for recognizing learning achievement, and so on. And from there was no looking back, honestly. 2014, some major initiatives were derailed, with large percentage of gamification initiatives not having the desired impact. A lot of articles started appearing. And the question was that, is it the end of gamification as a business strategy? However, further examination of the phenomena shows that these initiatives failed because their implementation was not tied to a clear business goal. So gamification begins to be seen not as a miracle, to cure poor engagement, but as a tool to combat it. I think that was a very interesting shift. 2015, Gamification and Millennials Gallup research was released, and that shows alarming trends in employee engagement. And this is very interesting. The research finds that only 31% of employees are engaged with their work, and that millennials are the least engaged group, less than 29%. So HR departments of major companies globally started launching gamification trials to address the engagement issue. How could they make the work more interesting? 2016, very important year in this entire journey. Gamification goes viral. So one name, and we all know, Pokemon Go is one of the most successful applications. And then we see the kind of records that Pokemon made. Highest grossing app, mobile game in its first month, most downloads in the first month for a mobile game, most international charts topped simultaneously, and fastest time to gross 100 millions. And same year, we see Snapchat releasing streaks and a lot of other initiatives happening. So today, current times, today we see most apps include gamification in some way or the other. And it's no longer just found on language learning and exercise apps. But be it meditation, to-do list, job application, litter picking, wildlife spotting, tea collecting, you name it, and there's a gamification app for it. It's much harder to spot gamification these days, not because there's less of it, but because there's just so much of it. It's everywhere. What's even more intriguing is it now we get a lot more different names, from behavioral design to engagement focused experience. So the entire journey that we see of this concept, I found it very interesting, and how the building blocks one by one. We have a wonderful panel here today, and I really look forward to the deliberation on this topic. And I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. Over to you, Subhash.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Well, gamification has gone a long, long way. I'm sure a lot of members in the audience would already know that one of the largest esports, what is the new name for gamification, one of the largest esports competitions in the world, the Dota Championship in Germany, comes with a first prize tag of $54 million for playing what you and I would typically consider a mobile game. Well, as Achin mentioned, we have a fantastic panel lined up for you today. Before we go on to the panel, a little bit about Notebook. We at Notebook are an EdTech product. We create short videos pertaining to the school curriculum. This means that you will find a video for every topic of every subject if you visit our website or our mobile apps. These videos come in handy in two cases. One is when you as an educator want to give your students a more visual introduction to the topic that you're about to teach. You can play these videos as a part of your offline or online classes, and students will get a more visual understanding of what you're about to teach them. Months later, when the students need to revise, they have access to the same videos on their personal devices, be it a laptop or a smartphone. Students can watch these videos over and over again at home to revise these topics better, and also to get reminded of what you had taught in class that day when that particular video was played. I will now play a short snippet of one of the Notebook videos so that you know what Notebook videos look like.
The Vernacular Press Act of 1878 gave the British government the right to close printing presses if they published news which the government found objectionable. In 1883, the government tried to pass the Ilbert Bill, which would give equality to Indian and British judges at the court. The law was opposed and the bill was withdrawn, showing how racial discrimination worked in India. Since the 1880s, Indians understood that they needed an all-India organization of educated people which would oversee their affairs. The Indian National Congress was formed in Bombay in December 1885 with 72 delegates from all over the country. The early leaders were Dadabhai Naoroji, Firoz Shah Mehta, Badruddin Tyabji, W.C. Banerjee, Surendranath Banerjee, Romesh Chandra Dutt, S. Subramania Iyer, and others from Bombay and Calcutta. In its first 20 years, the Indian National Congress was moderate. They wanted more Indian representatives in the high government positions and demanded that the civil service examinations be held in India and London. This would enable more Indians to take the examination. The British had crippled Indian economy by imposing land revenue and taxes on various items. Constant export of food grain from India to Britain had also led to famines in India, causing a lot of misery to the people. The Congress leaders pushed for economic reforms and wished to show the unfair nature of British rule to common Indians.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was just a short snippet of one of the Notebook videos. If you go onto our website, www.notebook.school, or visit our mobile apps for Android and iOS, you would find more than 10,000 such videos at your disposal. We do hope that you would like our work and recommend us to your students. With that done, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege to introduce the wonderful panel that we have with us today. We have with us Nutan Budhiraja. She holds a BA Honours in Political Science, an MA in Political Science, an MPhil in Public Administration, along with a B.Ed. She has taught and headed in American and IGCSE Cambridge curriculum schools in Middle East for almost 13 years. She headed the team for American and QNSA accreditation process in 2 established schools. She worked in some prestigious schools in Delhi and Mohali and taught in Delhi University colleges. She is currently the principal at the Learning Path School in Mohali, a school ranked #1 in Mohali in the category of co-ed day schools. She's also published articles in journals and newspapers and has been awarded the Best Teacher Award and the Science Olympiad Foundation Best District Principal Award twice. Ma'am, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. Privileged to have you. We also have with us Mr.
Thank you so
Vishal.
much.
You're welcome, ma'am. We also have with us Mr. Vishal Mohla, who is an EdTech evangelist, an application developer, a life coach, a computer science teacher, and a lifelong learner. As the head of IT in the Doon School, he was instrumental in embracing digitization in pedagogy, governance, and all school operations. As an application developer, his applications have a fan base of 3.4 million users. And as per analytics, someone somewhere in the world is always using one of his apps. As a computer science teacher for 22 years, his students are shaping the future of IT in the world, working in top-ranking positions in organizations like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, etc., and having their own startups with valuations of more than $500 million US. Sir, thank you so much for being here today. You are going to be the resident expert on the panel today. Privileged to have you here.
Pleasure being here.
Thank you, sir. We also have with us Dr. Vidhukesh Vimal, who's had an distinguished academic career with a PhD and MPhil from the University of Delhi, a B.Ed from the Faculty of Education, Jamia Millia Islamia University, New Delhi. His MA was from Hindu College and BA Honours from Hansraj College, Delhi University. He has taken a course in student residential care from Australia, has a certificate in school management and leadership from Harvard Business School and Harvard Graduate School of Education, together with an international postgraduate certificate in education from the University of London Institute of Education and a certificate in pastoral care from the UK Boarding School Association. He's had special education needs training from Mumbai. Dr. Vimal currently heads the Assam Valley School, a position he has held since September 2019. He's of the firm belief that in the 21st century, when knowledge is changing so rapidly, it is very important that skills such as collaboration, communication, critical thinking, creativity, and character are developed in each child. At the Assam Valley School, where student voice is part of everyday life, it is but natural that his students develop these skills and develop into responsible and confident young adults. Sir, thank you so much for being here today. Pleasure to have you back on the panel. I shall start my video now, stop the share. Once again, a very good evening and a warm welcome to the panel today. Nutan ma'am, if I may come to you first. I'm trying to understand the use that you see of gamification in the teaching learning process and how it is implemented in your school.
Thank you so much. I'm absolutely impressed with the kind of presentations that took place here. Lay down the foundation for everything that gamification probably needs to be addressed as. I'm a big champion of gamified classrooms, if I may use the word instead of gamification. We've defined gamification various ways, but to bring in an element of game to learning, to teaching learning, I think is what I would understand in our school as we progress into this COVID-related lockdown and closure and whatever that has entailed therein. I think this is something that is going to help us big time deal with one major issue that was kind of niggling at the back of my mind. Are we ending up creating classrooms that are again teacher-centric, where the student is controlled completely by terms such as unmute yourself and speak, and mute yourself now, don't speak, switch on your camera? I mean, we were turning these students into some kind of robots. Sometimes our face wasn't seen, but only heard because we had a video or a PPT or a wonderful Jamboard, writing going on and so on and so forth. So, but this gamification concept into teaching learning has given us a tool to break that kind of a monotony. Our goal all the time was to create independent self-learners, right? We wanted our students to be curious, to ask questions. But the online teaching platform, the way it was developing over the past few early months was I was wondering, it was digressing from our ultimate goal of creating students who could think for themselves. Gamifications or gamified classrooms or a classroom teaching which has an element of game would help us break the monotony, is my belief, that it would bring in an element of fun and happiness for sure, and that is the need of the time. The students at home are confined and they're limited even in their classrooms. There is peer interaction, which is at its bare minimum. The interaction with the teachers is also very limited, though we create n number of platforms for student-teacher engagement to happen, but still we know the constraints that were happening. Our teachers at LPS very quickly latched on to this concept of creating gamified classroom environments where the students' engagement was pretty high, like using a chapati to teach fractions, for example, in a classroom. I think that was brilliant. The students loved it. The parents lapped it because there wasn't anything much that had to happen. It was a fun thing happening within the family also. They ended up having some kind of a quick 5-minute lunchtime together. So that is how it went on, beyond the fact of having to teach a difficult concept like fractions to a student in class 5. When you're not there, you have manipulatives in the school, but then you don't actually use them when you're in a classroom. In our school, we are using a lot of tools, different varieties of games to engage the students at all levels. And I think the success of gamified classrooms lies in the single most element, which is as long as it is in sync with the learning objectives and learning outcomes. That is, the teacher has control of the learning environment when using these so-called games, as we call them. They are games only because they have those basic elements of games, that is competitiveness, and one is a winner, and then you have a leaderboard, and you have all those kind of scores, and instead of grades, you get badges. But for that, it's a very handy and a very powerful tool that a teacher has. And as Alvin Toffler would have said, the illiterates of 21st century wouldn't be those who can't read and write, but those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I think our teachers are at that extreme spectrum where they're having to unlearn what they knew all the time, learn new techniques, take it to the students with the single most objective that learning continues to happen in a manner that the students remains engaged. So I think I'm a big champion. Our teachers are wonderful and very adept at taking these so-called game element into the classrooms at all levels. And I think that's the way forward. As we go on, we'll get more finesse to what we do. We'll increase the element of levels of progression that we may be able to introduce our students to. And that's the way forward. Our students are loving it. Teachers are happy doing it. Parents are like, absolutely thrilled with the idea of what their children can do when given a task. A lot of independence, curiosity, all those elements we wanted to happen to our students are actually coming in a wonderful package now for all of them.
That's wonderful to know, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Mr. Mohla, if I may come to you next, sir. As I said, you are the resident expert today with your IT kind of background. So, sir, if you can...
That's the Doon School main field. Vidhukesh and Mr. Burrett will have very fond memories of this. Okay, so I'll, to start off, I would like to clear this terminology about gamification and game-based learning, because gamification is something like ma'am was also talking about gamification. Different people have different interpretations of it. Now, many times when we are referring to something as gamification, it is actually game-based learning. And many times when we are talking about game-based learning, which are like games like Minecraft and all, they are that is gamification, right? So they sound alike, but they are really two very different approaches. There's a fundamental difference between the two. And I just like to simplify that distinction first. But again, you can have your interpretation of gamification as long as you have the end goal, which is the learning outcome for the students in mind. So terminology does not matter, but just I'd like to just give some clarity onto it to start off. So gamification, like Mr. Burrett said, ma'am also said, it's application of game-like elements, in a non-game context, which is classroom in this case, and which is also the topic of our discussion today. If we talk about video games and gaming in general, its effects, will be just digressing. Now, so gamification, like Mr. Burrett also said, it uses and ma'am also said uses incentive rewards, leaderboards to track progress, to motivate students, right? Now, game-based learning is something which is totally different from this. The approach is totally different. The game-based learning is something which fully integrates games into the educational content. You can say that the entire course or the entire class that the teacher is taking has turned into a game in game-based learning, right? So I'll just simplify, give an example of this. Like a teacher, an example of gamification: teacher teaching in a classroom, conducting a quiz on a lesson, dividing students into groups for collaborative assignments, letting students give points to each other. So that is also kind of gamification. Now, an example of game-based learning will be something like when we were kids, we do not have all these gadgets with us. We used to play games like Raja, Vajir, Chor, Sipahi, and there used to be those points that used to become different points for Raja, Vajir, Chor, Sipahi, or maybe there were so many other games of that sort, maybe even card games. So that helped in improving mathematical skills. Now there are other game-based learning, dumb charades. Now the objective, I'm so sorry, my dog is barking, so you'll have to deal with that. Just give me a second, please. Isko quiet kar do, please. I'm so sorry. Working from home. Okay, so so dumb charades is something again like game-based learning, and the learning outcome is your dramatic skills, your non-verbal communication skills, right? So this is what game-based learning is. So to summarize, gamification integrates game mechanics into existing lesson plans and engage players with the specific subject matter, whereas game-based learning fully integrates games into the educational content, right? Now, both gamification and game-based learning, they have been existing for centuries. Very thin line of difference between the two. And as I said initially, the outcomes achieved are to be achieved are same. Now, I remember both Vidhukesh and Mr. Burrett, indulging in both gamification as well as game-based learning while they were at the Doon school. Like Mr. Burrett, I have spent around 5 to 6 midterms with him. Now, midterms are events where we go onto mountains, pitch tents with our students, take them for trek, have bonfires at night, spend time with our students, play dumb charades, right? So having in those 5 to 6 midterms, what I saw of Mr. Burrett was like he was giving a lot of hashtag lessons learned in life, as a life coach to the students, and obviously his insight into geography, knowledge of the stars, because when you go on upon the mountains, the skies are crystal clear. You are able to see, which something you do not see in cities. So all that was all that is game-based learning. Similarly, Vidhukesh, Vimal, in our school, he was a legendary master in charge of cricket, master in charge of street play and dramatics. So, what I noticed, and I mean, it's a no-brainer that, the time the kids spent having, doing those street plays, being engaged in dramatics, they will have fond memories to cherish for a lifetime. So all that is game-based learning of the classroom. Now gamification and especially game-based learning provides very immersive and multi-sensory experiences that help in deeper engagement. And as we have been talking about recent times, so in the last few years, we have seen that technology has been revolutionizing the scenario by offering very immersive teaching and learning solutions. Like your company, you're talking about some notebook, something I don't recollect the name, but I'm sure it's also something similar, right? So there are a host of solutions available these days. Lots of companies coming up with augmented reality solution, virtual reality solutions, and a lot of buzzwords flying out there. But there was actually a research that was done by McKinsey. I have a white paper of this. If anyone is interested, after this I can share with everyone. So it was for a class of 2030, and they did this research across 2,000 students, 2,000 teachers, policymakers, and now the outcome of this research was also that in a controlled environment, learning outcomes using game-based learning, gamification are visibly 12% higher than what you will achieve without gamification. Like same teacher, same students, that kind of scenario. Now, I can, if you talk about how we implement gamification in school, like I gave examples without the use of technology, but using technology, if you allow, I can just share my screen for a couple of minutes and maybe show a few things in Minecraft, if you don't mind.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, so I just start my Minecraft. It's going to take me just a couple of minutes because I have not opened it for a long time. But it's a very interesting project that we did with the students. So, everyone knows what Minecraft is. It's a game which is, which our students are very enthusiastic about. People all around the world play this game, and the point of Minecraft is to survive and make buildings, acquire inventory, exploring. So it enhances our creativity, problem solving, self-direction, collaboration, and a lot of life skills. So I'll just start sharing my screen. And I hope it works.
Yes, sir, we can see your screen.
Okay, so I don't know, we were talking about 21st century skills, and this is Minecraft Education Edition. If you can see, it's saying 22nd century skills. So we'll just start, and I will just go to, I'll just see this. Yeah, I think not this. Okay, just go to this. Now I'm just opening a world which has been created by our students. And they created it during one of our Founders Day exhibition. This is actually a virtual tour of the Doon school. Now, in this, what is happening is, and everyone knows, I mean, most of the educators here will know what Minecraft is, how you create worlds. So now this is our school. As you enter from the main gate, this is our main gate. This is the guard station. I'm sure after seeing this again, Mr. Burrett and Vidhukesh will have some fond memories. Now, these are actually the team players who made the game. I can introduce you to each or every one of them, but I will not because in the interest of time. So this is me. This is another teacher. This is our head of humanities department at that time. Now, you can traverse through the map. You can go around. Like if you want to see the IT center, you turn left, the place where I take classes. And I'll also take you to Mr. Burrett's office after this. So we are going right. And so now the beauty about this is this was made by a group of 12 students. They work very hard on it. Each and every brick has, you can see there's so many blocks, so many bricks. Each and every brick has been laid by the students. Are you online? Vidhukesh will remember. So this is a science block. And now the thing is, the way it has been made by the students, you can go inside any building. I mean, you can go, come over here, you can go. And now all this floor, the double story, triple story building, all has been laid by the students. So this is a computer science lab. This is the place where I sit, I teach, right? And I'm not going to show you each and everything in the interest of time, but I'm just showing you a few things. Now, all this, like, glass panel, which is there as you enter, it's exactly like this. Now, in the interest of time, I'll just fly off and I'll show you. You must have seen our main building in photographs, in videos. So you can just see the entire Doon School map over here. So right now, I'm flying to show all this to you. So this is our school main building. I can go on to any of the classrooms and I can show teachers teaching as well. I can climb stairs, get down, right? But I'm not doing that in the interest of time. I'm just showing you, the crux of it. Each and every classroom is approximately to the scale, not exactly, but it has been tried to be replicated by groups of students. Now, when it was made, I'll just get down. So I got down to a place that's known as a South Garden. This is our Art and Media Center. So now the thing is, how collaboration happened over here was the students, they divided themselves into groups, and every group worked on different, they worked on their houses. They worked on, one group worked on main building, one group worked on another building. So they, collectively worked on the same map, and then we had vacations also in between. So they spent time during the vacations, they collaborated. These are, by the way, pre-COVID times. Now the advantage of having this, getting this world made was later on, when the COVID hit us last year, and we have 2 batches in school who have never come on campus, but they know about, kind of each and every nook and corner of the school, because they have a copy of this map. So they can just go around there when they are having tutorial meetings. They spend time with their tutors. Then, tutors tells them about what place you do which activity. So, and again, it's a very immersive kind of an environment, and this is something which even the parents, students, everyone looks forward to. Now everyone has their own copy, and everything in school is covered. Now, this is just one example. Now, I'll stop sharing. I think that should be enough. Now, the thing is, the larger point over here is that this is something which engages students. The passion with which the students worked, you should have seen that. It was, worth something, worth, I'll say, gold. So, same way, we introduced Minecraft to our teaching community. Now, our chemistry teachers, they are giving their assignments on Minecraft, and they have virtual labs which are made in Minecraft. So all those who know Minecraft, they'll know that, there in the inventory, there are different chemicals. And when you do reaction of any 2 chemicals, you get a compound. So all those things can be replicated in virtual labs. So teachers are doing those kind of, work virtually now, because there's no other option. There was no other option in between. And our teachers are also very, enthusiastic about all these different approaches. So now another advantage of using a game-based approach like Minecraft for us has been that ever since we started using this, our teachers, they have kind of broken the silos. Like the Hindi department is collaborating with the IT department, the geography department is collaborating with other departments, English department is collaborating with other department, and the assignments which are being given to students are based on this. And other than that, also, if you go on to the Minecraft community. By the way, I'm not endorsing Minecraft as a product. I mean, there can be so many other ways in which you can achieve student engagement, and that is the larger point over here. It's not like only Minecraft is something that can do and others cannot. The point is that using game-based approaches, you can accomplish so much. It all depends. And like before, even Minecraft, I was talking about what the impact Vidhukesh had on our students, what impact that Mr. Burrett had up in the mountains during the midterms. That is something which is going to last for a lifetime. So all that happened off the classroom, outside the classroom, all that game-based learning happened outside the classroom. But when I meet some of the students with whom I had gone to midterms with Mr. Burrett, they still recount the learnings that they had during those trips. So I think this is it. Other than that, gamification is something which has been existing. Game-based, all this technology, these are new approaches, and we should embrace them in such a way that the desired learning outcomes are achieved. Because if we just talk about gamification, like the topic of discussion today is gamification in classroom, and you can just extrapolate it to game-based learning in classroom, right? So, but if you talk about games, then there is no end to it. Then we'll be digressing from the topic, and so I don't want to get into it. But I'll be happy to take any questions, and I think that that's about it from my side for now.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that wonderful virtual tour of the campus as well. I'm sure Dr.
I haven't shown you the full. Maybe sometime you can have a look at the.
I'm sure we have at least two people on the panel who are extremely nostalgic right now.
Yes.
Dr. Vimal, sir, if I may come to you next.
I can understand that.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, let me begin by saying thank you to Vishal. One thing which I don't know, because those who've been to that campus, they can only experience that is the sound. When you walk on the pebbles, there's a different sound. And then when you walk on the say solid surface, that's a different sound. And the Vishal's kids, they've added that pebble sound, and that's very dear to every Doon master and every Doon boy. So I think that was something very interesting to see. But yes, coming back to the point of gamification, if I look at, I'll obviously majority of the things been said, but I'll take a different paradigm. Fine. And before classroom, I'll say gamification in society. Fine. It always existed. That's why I think Mrs. Budhiraja also, she talked about it. In our different day-to-day functioning, fine. Because why gamification in the society? And if we try to understand, it just gives the reason that, to ease you out, to take the anxiety out of that unknown setup, and you are bringing the game element. And I think the most famous, most known gamification society, the example is when the newlywed bride and the groom, when they play some of the games, and then where they pick up from those kind of things, they follow it, and different places are different. But the whole idea of that gamification of bringing that element is to calm the nerves down. And that's why the society always, whatever time you exist, the time and the place, the society has kind of used gamification to ease out the pressure, the anxiety, and to engage people. Now we are living in 21st century, and obviously technology is something which brings gamification in a different perspective, because it's a tech-based gamification. That's a aspect. But at the same time, if I just kind of go for and against both for tech-based gamification, what it gives you, it gives you the ease, the convenience, the ready-made materials, and also kind of it's a time saving. It gives you the better way of analyzing data, because these certain things been done for you, and you can kind of analyze those data and kind of create. But the against part, if you go by that, it takes away the creativity from the teacher or creativity from the person, because it doesn't allow the person to think in that particular context, because one size fits it all it goes with that, because the company will not make it different for Assam, not for the Uttarakhand, not for different places. It's just kind of a very universal kind of approach. So we need to always think about, when we are talking about gamification, because creativity is the key element, whether you are doing it based on technology or you are kind of using gamification by yourself. So something which needs to be, kind of thought about is how to preserve, how to nurture creativity. And different time has different needs, different areas of expansion. And in 21st century, the area of expansion is, as someone rightly mentioned, about artificial intelligence. It's about understanding the binaries. It's all about understanding the movement, how basically things happen, fine. Like my daughter can do better things than me when it comes to artificial intelligence, when it comes to coding, when it comes to creating, because they understand. And that's why the word is relatable. They just don't know. It's not that they know it, they understand it. For us, we know it. This is the difference. This is the generation gap, that we know things, they understand things. That's why when Mr. Burrett talks about that, you can see the way hands are moving, you can see the way things are moving, is happening because this generation understands it. This generation, they relate with it. And that is why it's up to the teacher and the schools and the educators to bring this element in the classroom and the teaching. And that's why the schools which will bring gamification, I think there should be a balance of that, because it will take me to the next level. Like, you're living in a society where this gamification will lead to a digital divide as well. Because I represent, and we represent a school where we can afford such technology, where it can come with ease. But then if you look at the periphery, the society, still there are schools with basic community. And that's why I'm talking about creativity and the individual, because if the individual and creativity can be nurtured, then gamification can come into classroom at any level. If I may say, two names, I know one name I don't remember. I recently saw a video of a Kolkata teacher. He's a primary school teacher from Kolkata, and he has turned the whole classroom or the whole road street into classroom. And he's using different methods, different games, and kind of bringing those elements, gamification elements, to create excitement. Kids are sitting under the sky, sideways. He built some blackboards on the wall of those houses, but the kids are excited. They're engaged. They're focused. They're kind of eager to learn. They are curious. They're participating. And I think that's the main objective of gamification, that you take to that level. And it's very important that you need to nurture. And that's why we need such organizations. We need such training programs which can nurture people in both ways. Because there are people, they may know things, but they don't know how to connect it. That interconnect, the interdependent of something, people are a little shy, and they are little reluctant. And that's what COVID has done. COVID has pushed people to think in that direction. And that's when every school, and our school is not an exception, where teachers have built in both kind of gamification strategies in the classroom, where they're using obviously different online games available. They're using different kind of elements of that, their own tests, quizzes, all kind of stuff that are happening. And at the same time, their manual, their own thing, like my math teacher, she does a very beautiful gamification thing, and I appreciate that like crazy. Like if a child has given the answer, whether it's online or offline, she has a different kind of sound and she will prepare, and the whole class will do that. So that means that boy has done that, and to appreciate that boy or girl, the whole class will do it, create a different kind of sound. So when you are and then that means this point is awarded to that particular child. So you are bringing that element, and you are using the technology, because we need to think about those at the periphery. The second person, I think Honorable Prime Minister mentioned about her in one of his Man Ki Baat program. That's called Mamta Ankit. I remember her name, from Uttar Pradesh. She is again a primary teacher, very basic, but the kind of things she brought to class, the whole creativity, if you look at that aspect, I think that is something one needs to pick up from that part. If I may kind of sum up in this whole thing, we need to look at both aspect where gamification is not the synonym of tech-based games only or technology-based game. Definitely technology, when if you can afford it as a school, or say as a teacher in your own case, but there are so many free apps as well. But at the same time, when I say afford it, that doesn't mean only financial affordability. I'm talking about your skills, because some people and the other resources available to use that. You may have something on a mobile phone, but you won't be able to display it for the classroom. But if one can afford it, then definitely these tech-based gamification things ensures that your classroom is engaged. You ensure that your classroom has that energy, because energy in the classroom is the most important aspect for me as a teacher and as a head also. I always look for energy in class. Okay, how energetic is the class? Where is the energy level? Because there are some teachers, they find it difficult to teach in first school. There are some teachers, they find it difficult just before the lunch, because energy has gone down. But if you are smart, if you have that creativity in you, and you can bring that gamification to the classroom, it ensures that you lift the energy in the class, and that will sort out huge amount of issues which teachers, like say for example, there are teachers, they are complaining. There are, if you look at today's COVID time and online teaching program, there are different set of teachers. There are A teachers, they are enjoying every bit of online. There are B teachers, they're cribbing at every bit of online. And then there are teachers in the middle. Those who are cribbing at, if you do a kind of any school, if you do a survey and kind of do a basic understanding, you'll figure it out. These are the teachers, they are far, far away from gamification, because they are using the online medium, but they are teaching as if they are offline. Fine. And what exactly Ma'am Budhiraja talked about it, mute, unmute, kind of keep these instructional base, say pedagogy will not ensure engagement. To engage people, you need to provide them, give them something where you both of you meet as a teacher and the learner. And that meeting point is when you are using technology, you are using gamification. That is the meeting point, because it will immediately create the interest. And that interest will turn into energy, that energy will turn into engagement, and that engagement will turn into learning outcomes and learning process. So this is something every teacher needs to understand. And if one can figure it out, and that's why, some people can keep talking about, yeah, I don't have resources, I don't have the resources, how can I'm going to use this? My request to every teacher is, you don't need resources all the time. It's all about you and your creativity, your understanding how to relate. You can relate anything with gamification and everything. I remember, kind of one of the finest, buzzer round I used to do gamification in the classroom, where I'll tell the kids, especially grade D form boys, that is grade 7, that everyone will put their head on the desk. And when I'll finish my question, whosoever head will be up, that guy will give the answer. Right? So now everyone is there and waiting for that. Okay, my head must go up. So it's as simple as this. You don't need a very specific tech, but yes, if you can, so try to have this balance, which will ensure that you have the human element in the classroom. Because many times what happens, your human element, or say sometimes when you are using too much of say virtual thing, it kind of forces the student to cut from the reality. And this is one of the biggest challenge a teacher or the society, as a society, we are going to face, that you are not going to accept real people. After this online classes, too many issues are there. All kind of socio-emotional things are coming where you are not ready to accept real people. You're not ready to spend time with real people because you are hooked with this. So if we can have a balance of virtual and reality, and at the same time, the societal, the traditional gamification which exists in our society based on the creativity and the context, and at the same time, the time relatable new age technology and those gamification things, if we can bring it, I think it will bring an inclusive learning classroom, and it can build in that way where your outcome can be where you can say the measurable, at the same time you are say rooted to your roots as well. Otherwise, the chances are that you are hanging somewhere in the sky, and which is not good for either for the student, not for the society. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for really articulating that journey, where the end game has to be engagement, which finally leads to academic outcomes. Love that. Just to tell everybody in the audience, particularly with the two schools that we have here today, the Learning Path School Mohali and the Assam Valley School, we did a very real gamification experience very recently. Notebook collaborated with the IIM Calcutta Innovation Park to conduct an event called Ignite, which was about students coming up with entrepreneurial ideas. And I understand that the teams from both the Assam Valley School and Learning Path School went quite a few rounds into that competition. And I'm sure that entire experience of the team working together, working on that plan, would have also contributed to their learning. Thank you so much, sir. Ma'am, if I may come to you next. We have spoken about how students get engaged with gamification. We have spoken about how teachers are benefiting from gamification. The problem is there's a third aspect of school education who are always a few steps behind the developments in the sector, which are the parents. And parents will look at gamification with always a bit of suspicion because studies are supposed to be a serious affair. So, ma'am, how do you manage parents' expectations in this case?
I think that's very relevant. The parents are also going through their own set of pressures and having to come to terms with the changing market, job scenarios, and so forth. I think it's the job of a school, the teachers, to make sure that anything that we do at school is not also adding to the table and to the problems that the parents might be facing, if not necessarily problems, but the shifts that they are also having to make. So as long as the focus remains on the outcomes and objectives and not on the tools, by way of having to have a particular browser, for example, necessarily for a particular app to be used, for a gamification tool to be used for teaching learning. I think we need to take those kind of things into account and make sure that things that are readily available, things that are approachable, accessible to the parents, and all kind of parents are out there. There are single parent families also, where the mothers may not be so comfortable with bringing in these kind of new tools into the home and available to the students. I think that will make a lot of difference. And so our focus at Learning Path has not been to use these high-tech tools, but to begin small, steady, and then gradually get into a mode where the parents will understand the need, the utility, the benefits of any such thing which is not textbook oriented, lecture oriented, PPT oriented, or test oriented. I think that shift, once that happens, brings in a lot of participation from the parents also, primarily at the primary wing level. Now, when it comes to middle school and senior wing, these students are themselves very capable. They're a very smart generation that we're dealing with right now. They understand the tools. They understand technology, they adapt to it very fast. Not that the primary wing hasn't, they have surprised us. Class 1, being able to mute, unmute, and log into the meet sessions and so on and so forth. So they're learning very fast. And as long as we are able to make these students independent, and we are creating so-called gamification tools in the classroom by the teachers, bringing in a whole level of creativity, not just technology oriented, not just completely based on technology. I think that will bring a little space for the parents to come to terms with this new changing paradigm of the classroom teaching. And we see that shift happening. Initially, the parents were worried about a notebook and the answers. Today, that doesn't seem to be the concern necessarily so. The learning is happening, application is happening. They see their own children being so creative, the kind of work the students are producing and displaying, the kind of confidence, the conviction that they bring to their own work. I mean, I may grade it as B or C or whatever, but what is more important is the pride that the student has, when he does all these kind of, works that are tasks primarily that a teacher gives. To a child, it's fun. To a teacher, it's aimed, directed. And it is converging at a point which is where we want the student, the teacher, and the parents to come together. We've not had a serious concern with our parents because we've gone gradually. We've made sure the parents understand. We've made sure that the families are in tune, are in sync with the changes that we might be bringing in our classroom slowly and steadily. I keep repeating that. A sudden shift of gear and a speed and a pace can, can create issues with balancing, so on and so forth. So we are good, seriously. And I think I'm convinced, along with our faculty, that the way we are going, we just have, to keep growing into it and keep the parents as partners to it. As long as the learning is happening, I'm very convinced the parents are happy. Their own single point objective is my child should grow and learn and get better at what he's doing. And if that is being addressed, and the child in the meantime also goes back happy and jumping, that's a cherry on the cake, so as to say. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Dr. Vimal, if I may come back to you, sir. While we are seeing the benefits of games, etc., and you touched upon this when you said, it always does not have to be tech-based. But the fact is, every child today has access to a lot of tech, perhaps a little more than they should. And therefore, you have what you call the PUBG effect, right? Every 14, 15-year-old is on the phone shooting bullets. How do you shield against that?
No, that's exactly, I said, as a school and as a society, as a parent also, we need to understand that, the balance is very much required, right? And one of the very important aspect is to maintain routine. Fine, I'll start with it. Unfortunately, today we are living in a time where unconditional parenting is there. Where parents, they think they are providers. And after providing things, their job and their things ends there. There are people, they have no courage, and I have no hesitation in saying that. I have seen as a housemaster, as a head also, I'm seeing the same thing. They have no courage to say no to their kids. Right? And when you are living in such a time that how I'm going to say no to my kid, I think it is a dangerous situation we are moving in. And that's why we as a society, as an adult society, and that's why I feel that parents need more training, more workshops than teachers and the students. And how to do parenting, because from there things start. Like say we work in a boarding school, you rewire the whole thing for 4 months. You bring the say life in order. Your day starts at 6 o'clock or 6:30 in the morning, because you are giving a antidote, your alternative to that. Because I will, this is the second aspect, that you are bringing a antidote or say alternative to that. Because but at home they simply work and don't do this. But the child will ask you, then what should I be doing? And then no alternative being created. That's why the most important aspect is create the alternative. You don't have to stop people doing it. If as a school, as a parent, if you can provide an alternative, I'm pretty sure they will be engaged in that alternative. I'll just give you an example. When kids came back from holidays, last time also, this time also, they came back to campus. We very smartly and gradually, as ma'am said, introduce different activities for them, where they are free to. Whole day we open our art room, whole day we open our music school, whole day we open, even on Sundays we open our library. We said you can go and play any sport at any time till 5:30 or something. And then we introduce some of the social gathering. We call it easy dining, where boys and girls can eat together. We introduce our kind of social events in the evening. So when you are providing the alternative, no one is cribbing. And I know schools, I will not name, when the housemaster and the school decided that no, we will not give the mobile phones to the kids, not a single child came out of the boarding house next day. The point is, you need to create an alternative. If you are thinking that you are going to control, that's why my mantra as a student lead, or say as a head, as a teacher, or as a parent is, do not try to control behavior, try to manage behavior. And while managing behavior, you will kind of know, and how to manage it by providing alternatives. If you have that element in you, you are well protected. If you cannot provide, that's why as a society, as a parent, we need to every day remember how many times we tell our kids, do this, rather than telling our kids, don't do this. If we can just count a day, you will have a data that, or say not even a day, just when you are with your child, they count it for 1 hour, and you will have a nice understanding of what kind of parenting we are doing and what kind of role as a housemaster or as a teacher we are. Because so many times we say, don't do this, don't do this, and what needs to be done? You need to come up with your own strategies. Like if I say, as a housemaster, people is to struggle. People is to struggle that, the kids are here and there, especially when the school is about to shut. last 2-3 days exams are over, no serious academic business is on, what to do? In our thing, what I used to, I used to organize a 6-a-side football match. I know and it's a mix, not like age based. So every grade 12 boy is a captain, and you have to make your team. And let's have say 15 teams, because there's on an average 90 odd students in a boarding house. So make 14 to 15 teams, and some of them will become referee and all. And for next 3 days, this match is going on. So you don't have to worry about where is my bacha. The bacha in the quaddy. And what you need to do, you need to keep some, some rewards for them. Okay, this Coke bottle will go to you, or this juice will be given to you, the best player. You need to provide the alternative rather than just keep talking about the problem. If that can be done, I think it's sorted.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm running a bit short on time, so Mr. Mohla, I'll come to you for the final question. Sir, you being the technocrat here, we'll do a bit of crystal gazing. What do you think, sir, we are headed to? Where does this go next? What is the next stage of gamification in the classroom?
I think it's going to continue, and they say technology is like a road roller. If you are not sitting on top of that, you are under it. So I think we will have to, we'll need to be sitting on the top of it. Otherwise, we'll be crushed, because this is the demand of the hour. The students, they have a different way of learning. They get emotions from technology these days. I'm not saying that we should be doing too much of it, but it's kind of inevitable. And like initially when I started speaking, I recounted some instances of gamification, game-based learning without the use of any technology. And that is something, again, those people will remember for a lifetime. But then times are changing. So we also have to keep changing, keep up with the times, and try to be on top of the road roller.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much to all three of you. Thanks a lot for sharing your expertise and experience with us. We all stand enriched for it. I'll let Achin do the formal vote of thanks. Achin, I think we've had a wonderful session. Over to you for the vote of thanks.
A really wonderful session. I thank all our esteemed panelists for their time here today evening for gracing the platform. But sir, thank you as always for giving us a great start. I think some wonderful points. And you really set the tone for the evening based on which our esteemed speakers, panelists at a point of time further deliberated on it. Nutan ma'am, thank you so much. I think you made some very important points. Most importantly, very appropriately, you described the relationship between teacher and parent, and how ideally parents should be seen as partners. And considering the fact that in a real world, because even as esteemed educators, you have most of the esteemed educators here wear both the hats as parents as well. So understand the challenges, what happens on the other side of the table. So I think undoubtedly, considering the challenges that they also are facing in today's world, it's really important to ensure that they are on board and they understand the purpose, and we don't make things too complicated for them. So I think very, very important points, very, very appropriate in today's context, that the tools be approachable and available, and ultimately should not be too complicated. So I think wonderful. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your deliberations. Some other very interesting points as well. Dr. Vimal, thank you, ma'am. Dr. Vimal, thank you so much. Whenever you have come to this platform, sir, please be as a platform, and I'm sure all members of the audience will stand enriched. So I think very mature take on the topic. Undoubtedly, you're very right that society has always used gamification to reduce anxiety from times immemorial. Very true. And also the fact that today's tech-based gamification, it's really important to maintain a balance. I think very rightly you mentioned. And the role of teachers is so important to ensure that there's energy in the classroom. And I think that's something that only an educator can do in his or her own way. So ensuring that. And also I think the other point, last point that you made is very important, that rather than talking about it, it's really important to provide alternatives. And the courage to say no to one's child, I think that is something that is undoubtedly, there's something to think about. And I'm sure that this is a point which in today's modern day parenting, it's one of the challenges that honestly many people will not admit, but very true, considering the fact that parents themselves are so busy with their careers that at times, out of that burden of guilt, undoubtedly providing things and ensuring, okay, I've done my bit, but honestly, that's not enough. And at times, that may rather be counterproductive. So I think very mature take on the topic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vishal sir, thank you so much for being a part of this. And I think wonderful, great takes, and also wonderful to know from you about Burrett sir and Dr. Vimal and how they've immensely contributed. So I think great. I think you made an interesting point when you started your deliberation, and as a resident expert, very rightly and appropriately, the difference between gamification and game-based learning. We often use these terms interchangeably, but yes, there are differences and you appropriately highlighted it. But I think the other point that you made also is very important, that what matters is the learning outcome. Terminology, how we call it, that's an alphabet soup at the end of the day. But what really matters is the learning outcome. What is it that we are achieving out? So I think really great. And also last point that you made, I think that's something that stays with us, that technology indeed is like a road roller. And rather than being crushed under it, it's important to stay on top of it. So I think that the point that also Nutan ma'am also made, that in today's age, it's really important to unlearn, unlearn and relearn. So I think more than learning, unlearning is one of the most important challenges and requirements of modern day living. That unless until we really ensure that we shed the baggage, because if we continue to carry on the baggage, at times it might be difficult for us to embrace that change, which is so important. So I think wonderful. I thank all our esteemed panelists for taking their time out, and we all stand enriched. I also thank members of the audience for their time here today evening. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.